everyone, welcome back. Now my ADHD videos tend to be pretty popular. You guys love them. I know many of you are INFPs with an ADHD diagnosis. I know many of you are probably INFPs wondering if you also have ADHD. And I'm also aware that many of you are new subscribers that probably don't really know much about the MBTI, or you may have your own personality type that's separate from the INFP. Either way, all of you guys are welcome on this channel because this is where we discuss the human condition as well as personality types, and every now and again I'll discuss mental health because I too suffer through different kinds of mental illnesses such as generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, ADHD, even though ADHD isn't exactly a mental illness, but we'll get to that in a minute. So today I thought I would do the most Googled questions about ADHD, just as I have done with the most Googled questions about the INFP. Now, as always, I will add I'm not a doctor, so these answers are coming from an unqualified perspective. However, I live with the condition, so I can speak from experience, of course, as you guys know. So the first question is, what causes ADHD? What is the root cause? Scientists are still figuring out ADHD. It's still really a neurological phenomenon. There is so much more to discover about ADHD, and we don't have all of the answers. However, scientists commonly believed that it is hereditary. There apparently is a 50% chance of your parent passing on ADHD to their child if that parent obviously has ADHD. There's also said to be some kind of links in utero when the mother smokes. However, one of the criticisms that I have with that is that somebody with ADHD is predisposed to addiction. I'm wondering rather if the causation is the hereditary aspect of ADHD rather than the chemicals from cigarettes. But look, I don't know, I'm just speculating. Another possible cause may be brain damage as well. So there are a few different scenarios as to what may cause ADHD. What are people with ADHD good at? Well, because we have an interest-based nervous system, we do really well with things that require bouts of attention, and especially where we can utilize our creativity and our outside of the box thinking. We can do pretty well in those circumstances. One really cool thing about ADHD, and it's a double-edged sword. It can be cool, but then sometimes it's not, which is the hyper-focus that we have. If you give us a task that we're really interested in, interest-based nervous system, we may very well go above and beyond to meet that objective. What happens if ADHD is left untreated? Well, in my circumstance, I was diagnosed at 27. So I went my whole life without a diagnosis. It was okay during high school. There were things I was really good at and things I wasn't. And the things that I wasn't good at, I just didn't try at all. So my grades did drop in that area. Luckily, I did pass school and I wound up getting the highest grades in my year for things such as drama. What helped with that was my drama teacher believed in me. He continued to encourage me and he could see this deep potential that I had within theatre. What I find with having ADHD is if you're put into the right environment, you can absolutely thrive. And for me, that was drama class. When I wasn't diagnosed and I had no idea what was going on with me, I found life really tough. I couldn't stick to a job. I couldn't stick to studying. I had children young. I couldn't figure out why life seemed out of control all the time, every single day. My head was always messy. I felt like I couldn't convict myself into a particular area and be effective. While I made a huge effort to be on time to places, I was time blind and often stressed out so much before I'd leave the house. Statistically, people who do not get treated properly for ADHD wind up falling into addictions. They leave their jobs, their careers. They have trouble with their relationships. They also have trouble with their self-esteem and wind up having rejection-sensitive dysphoria. There are many overlapping symptoms of autism and ADHD, but no, they are not the same. The reason why people may consider them the same, or maybe even to say they're like brother and sister or twins or something in the mental health world is because ADHD and autism are both developmental and neurological disorders. Many mental health issues are hereditary or they can begin in utero, like psychopathy, for example. And of course, many others are a cause of different environmental situations or can be caused by certain traumas in life, etc. But for autism and ADHD, they're both neurological conditions. We like to call this neurodivergence, and often the overlapping symptoms such as hyperactivity, talking a lot, overstimulation. I know for me, I get incredibly overwhelmed in very intense situations. I often can't handle too much sensory input and I guess messaging coming in from the outside into the inside. My brain has a lot of trouble separating different messages, and therefore it all just ends up in a big messy pile in my head. Many people with autism also experience this symptom, so often these things do overlap, and also many people who are diagnosed with autism are also diagnosed with ADHD. Is ADHD an illness or a disability? Well, I guess those two things, I consider them the same. Well, they're both debilitating or can be debilitating within a neurotypical world. Perhaps I don't like to see disabilities as being disabled. Rather, I like to see them as being a place of difference. I do understand it's something that I was born with, and I accept myself just the way that I am, and I will do my absolute best in life with the box of chocolates that I've been given, and I'm forever grateful for the life that I do have. There is a place for me in this world as someone with ADHD. We are all abled in our own unique ways, and we are all unique. Everybody on this planet has things about them that make life difficult. But I don't know, that's just me. So you may disagree with that, and that's absolutely fine. You have your own experience, and I'm very open to hearing about that too. Is ADHD more common in males or females? Men and women have ADHD at the same rates. The reason why males tend to be diagnosed more, or rather it looks like males are more predisposed to having ADHD than females, is because of how we recognize ADHD, how ADHD is diagnosed. Now, I don't believe this all comes down to the fact that our society had cared more about mental health in boys or boys' health versus girls' health. It's very, very easy to spot a boy who has ADHD. Boys tend to present their symptoms very overtly. They can be really hyperactive, bouncing off the walls, loud, talkative. When they're teenagers, they can also find themselves a lot in physical conflicts and drug taking. So it's very, very easy to spot. Whereas with girls, they're more likely to present as inattentive, and therefore they have more of the daydreamy stereotype. This I can confirm was true for me when I was a girl. I wasn't talkative, and this is the annoying thing, is that when we think about ADHD, we think about a chatty Cathy. No, not me. I was really quiet, and I was very happy to just be on my own buzz and not talk to anyone and just do me. This kind of situation where I would just block everything out and just focus on what I'm doing, have undeniable, unbreakable focus. But yeah, that's the answer there. Males and females do, or should at least, get diagnosed pretty much at the same rate. And in females, it's just a little bit harder to diagnose because it's very internal. No. Simple answer. No. There is no link between low IQ and ADHD. The reason that this stereotype existed a few decades ago is because at our schooling, for example, it's very much a one-size-fits-all. People with ADHD may not do well in school because school is not set up for the person with ADHD to thrive. It doesn't mean that the person with ADHD can't thrive at school, because as I said, I didn't have too much trouble and I got really high scores in the things that I loved. With many people who have ADHD, they may have been labeled someone who is not very intelligent. That may be because that person hasn't been in a particular environment where they get to utilize the parts of their brain to be effective. This could also be because that person with ADHD may have received heaps of criticisms growing up. We know that people who receive a lot of criticisms don't tend to do very well. And they also tend to suffer from other ADHD symptoms like rejection sensitive dysphoria, which isn't really talked about much in society when it comes to ADHD. Put the person with ADHD in a particular environment with particular tools that they can use, and they will thrive. I mean, many of the great thinkers of our time have had a neurodivergence, such as Albert Einstein. He was in a particular environment where he could thrive. I mean, put him into a hairdressing salon, he was probably useless as tits on a ball. Many people with ADHD go on to be athletes, actors, scholars, you name it. People with ADHD have trouble answering questions. For me, yes, I have trouble answering questions if I'm put on the spot. I am much better at writing things down, sending emails, text messages, etc. If I get a phone call and I'm asked certain questions or, go into a meeting, I do find it difficult to cover all of the topics, or rather the different files in my brain that I could absolutely access that have all the information in there, but what comes out of my mouth is poop, farts, word farts. I don't know, what do you call it? It's like being around someone that you have a crush on and you just don't know what to say and you stumble over your words. You feel flustered and you just wind up making a fool out of yourself. Yeah, that's me. My brain winds up going into a self-destruct mode where I can't access anything. And what I do find is that because I have all of these files or tabs open in my brain all at the same time, I have trouble accessing the correct one. There'd be one tab that has everything I need to know to answer the question, but I just can't figure out which one it is. And I'm like going through the tabs, going, which one is it? Gotta answer the question really quick. Anyway, you guys, this wraps up this video today. I hope you enjoyed it. Could you relate to anything I was saying? Do you have any more questions about ADHD? Please let me know in the comments. And I hope you have a good day, night, morning, evening, wherever you're around the world. And I'll see you guys all again for the next video. Bye.